Hello. Hi. I hope the fans aren't too loud. I don't think I've ever noticed they were. And honestly, it's toasty enough back here that I don't too much care either. So, oh well. I Today is the 20th. Now, it is still tourist season for approximately 20 more degrees. So, I think that, of course, in like 12 hours from now, the sun will officially be in Gemini. Maybe since it's a leap year, all of the seasons have technically started a day early. Um, and so I guess there's the Four of Wands. Guess I'm just gonna do this real quick. I wasn't gonna go live today, but then it just kind of sort of, I was like, I'll do a little something. Because I wanted to, and then I didn't. And I said, I'm gonna probably sleep like 2 hours yesterday, and I slept like 2 hours. Woke up super early after like no sleep. I was like, I don't know why I can't sleep. But I'm not gonna be on too late today. I'm gonna just do this real quick. Hopefully it'll be 20 minutes at the most. Going to sleep. Sleep a full at least 6 hours. And then wake up better. I took so many naps today. It's like I feel like I say it every time. Why did this pop up? I feel like I say it every time, but like I haven't slept like this since like the last eclipse season. I was like, I don't know if there's like too much energy or whatever going on, but at most all I sleep is like 3 hours. Now it's between 2 and 4. Oh wow. Okay. And then I'm gonna pull this. I don't have to close my eyes because a messenger just came out. So, the Wands one. The tell resumes again. I've been seeing the stronghold of the flame a lot lately. Um, so I already pulled the card that she's going to be bringing, but it's the lovers, the stronghold of the flames, and the journeyman. Oops, 8 of orbs, and it's interesting because you see like 10 orbs over there, right? And then you got 8 orbs over here. In between is the 9, even though that's not the 10 of orbs, it's the lovers. And then the message that she's bringing is the Queen of Wands. No, the Queen of Pentacles. Of course, it's the Queen of Pentacles. The Ebony Shield. Look at all those pentacles. Look at all them pennies, and then the Queen of Pennies. It's like, what's at the bottom of the deck? Okay. The Stronghold of the Grail is at the bottom of the deck, and her message is. Is that the Four of Wands? It is. Okay, cute. Her message is the Four of Wands. What I heard was like your efforts or your determination has been seen or observed, and that's it. It's been seen. The lovers, the Queen of Pentacles, the 8 of Pentacles, the Queen and the 8 make the 9. There's actually 10 pentacles on this tree. There's the 9 pentacles here, and then the 1 over there. And then the Four of Wands came out, which was the message. It didn't come out, I pulled it. Because it's the message brought by the Stronghold of the Grail at the bottom of the deck. And I've been seeing that page of the Stronghold of the Flame a lot. And with that salamander, when I first saw it, I was looking at the tail, and it's like, oh, the tail resumes. So if it's been on pause, it's time to hit play. My mom just texted me and asked me if she's shady. I was like, oh, yeah, you are. Everybody's shady though, especially when we talk to each other. You know, it's all love, but just because it's love. Oh, and look, there's the new world order. The world with this four of wands at the bottom of the deck. Okay, that was interesting. It's time for stuff to be dispensed. Three of Cups in that world. Reconciliation Nation. Ooh, the Reaper in the world. That's interesting. We'll do three. Two more. And then I'm going to get, basically just going to do the I Ching. For, I don't even know if it's for yesterday, if it's today, what this is for. I'm going to just do it. Actually, I'm going to do three. One, two, three. I'm going to pull the top and the bottom. Oh, it's right to left. I think this is like the Hungarian method. Well, the title card is on the bottom. So this pile is out, I guess. I'll just pull the card at the top of the deck. It's the stronghold of the Grail again. That Page of Cups. But since this is at the bottom of the deck, I'm not, or this stack, I'm not going to pull to see what the message is. But I don't have time for that. I mean, never mind. Anyway, okay. So there's a message coming from the realm of, I actually want to read this. I'm listening to my peaceful meditations playlist. I mean, it's not mine, but again, like I am like every time now. I actually kind of sort of really like it. At first, I was just doing it to be more cognizant of the space that I'm in, but it's kind of sort of become a thing. Ooh, this has this text always been this small? I mean, I guess. This is the stronghold of the Grail, a divine messenger from the creative world, harbinger from the emotional plane, bringing an omen of fluidity. She has come to make the divine will known to the Keeper, bringing a significant celestial transmission of the purifying and revelation to the Keeper about the Holy Grail. At the divine's behest, she performs miracles born of the Grail, from the palace of the floods. She is the herald of purification. Here is the guardian angel of the watery north. The page of chalices would be an ideal guide for accompanying the keeper and navigating the keeper through the creative world. A chess piece, the rook, symbolizes her stronghold. The chalice marks the realm for which she is a ward. In the foreground, a letter to symbolize a divine message or omen. Upon its wax seal is the alchemical glyph for water. To the right is a crayfish, an animal spirit guardian of water. To the left are yellow and white chamomile blossoms. In medieval times, chamomile was a symbol of Mother Mary. The plant was often used in medicine That's interesting because I was talking about how I couldn't sleep, and my aunt was like, "Oh, like you like tea, right? You should drink chamomile." And here's chamomile. It's like everything is a synchronicity, even things that I wouldn't think are. Like I'm playing a game. I'm playing Animal Crossing, right? And in Animal Crossing, there are certain spots where you can dig up money, and if you plant money in those spots, it turns into a money tree, right? And so I was planting money trees, and then the next day or later that day, I was playing and I talked to one of the villagers, and they're like, "Somebody said that they saw you burying money. Like, what was that about?" The next day, someone uploads a video, and I think it was in the title. It said something about like money trees or something like that, and I was like, "What?" I was just playing a game. Now everything is about me planting money seeds. When the stronghold of the Grail appears in a reading, the sealed envelope in the bottom right corner suggests an additional message for the querent. Thus, a clarifying card can be drawn and placed over or next to the page card to indicate the additional message that the page, as a divine messenger from the creative world, is bringing. Since it comes from that world, it will relate to matters pertaining to elemental water, such as domestic matters, matters pertaining to the internal sphere, personal spirituality, love, relationships, or even past lives. Ooh. Is that it? Yes. Hold on, wait. 1 second. Let me see if the keeper is in here. If the keeper is in here, I've never done this, but if the keeper is in here, then I will. If the keeper isn't in here, then I won't. No, there's another page. Does not look like she is. Nope. Oh, the Archangel of Healing is right under her. I'm so since this is the card at the bottom, which is the title card, it's actually the certificate card, but I treat it as the title card. I'm not gonna pull an additional message, but since that's the card there, I'm gonna say that that speaks to personal spirituality because that was one of the elements of the card, right? And so this is actually the space of the past. This is the present. This is the future. It's literally talking about it. Okay. I was like, because I was thinking about it. Oof. Left at the bottom of the second pile in the present is the Ten of Swords. So in the past, I feel like this is something related to personal spirituality in the deep past. Deep past, because again, that card is there. But she said that it could be past lives, right? So maybe, excuse me, it's related to a past life. And then at present, is the Queen of Swords, the Scarlet Shield, and the Defector, Eight of Cups. Power and authority of air with the Eight of Cups, Eight of Chalices. With the Ten of Swords up top, maybe this speaks to the completion of past life karmic cycles. Potentially. I wonder if you like close out a past life karmic cycle, if you get like even more rewards. Because I feel like you should, like, because like you don't even know about it fully, really. You just like, right? But the Queen of Swords is Libran energy. Libra is the masculine side of Venus. Venus is retrograde in Gemini, which is interesting because it's the air side of Venus. And then Venus is in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. That's the closest two planets to the sun. So, with those being the two planets closest to the sun, those are the two planets that are closest to who we are. And that's kind of sort of how we operate and what we value, right? Through Mercury being the operation, being the magician, being the busybody planet, because it's the quickest. But since it's the quickest, it also retrogrades the most. And then you have Venus, who has very steady sort of retrograde cycles. So this is 11 swords, if you include the sword from the Scarlet Shield. And 11 is a master number. Could be associated with an awakening, but it breaks down to a 2, which is duality. It could be the case that, like, the reason why it's like you don't have to know necessarily about what these past life karmic cycles specifically are, because if it's a past life karmic cycle, it's similar to karmic cycles that we have within the life, but I guess it's different because you may not necessarily understand or know why you are sort of not predetermined or predestined, but what's the word when it's like you do it by default and you don't even know why? It's not predicated. It's pre something. I don't know. Oh, what is that word? Predisposed. I think it's predisposed because it'd be like a predisposition. So you don't know why you're necessarily predisposed to certain behaviors or traps or vices, maybe. But it's like you already have experience of it in this lifetime and you know that it's not great. So you don't necessarily have to know the complete history of it because I mean, if it's a past life karmic cycle, I mean, it probably, it's like, you shouldn't be doing it, whatever it is. But the benefit of a present life karmic cycle is that it's like you get exposed so much that you can begin to see the pattern. This is a pattern that began before you even knew. And so it may be harder to recognize it as a pattern, but sometimes you don't have to get into the habit of doing things that you don't like in order to not do them, right? So let's say that, like, some people only got to eat a certain food one time to know that they don't like it. They don't have to eat it like 20 times and then be like, oh, I don't actually like this. Or you can listen to something one time, right? It's like I'll try anything once, but doesn't mean I'm going to try everything 5 times to see if I like it or not. Because at first I was like, well, that's kind of not fair. But it's like in the walking away of this comes a discovery of the self. Oh, wow. And I'm also seeing this as like, what's under this Ten of Swords? The Nine of Cups. I need to stop. Oh, I can't. Not there. Okay, I'll stop there. So the card at the bottom is the Two of Wands, the discerning one. So behind this Ten of Swords is the Nine of Cups, the Initiate, and the Ten of Cups. This is like the full. Ten of Swords, Ten of Cups. This is interesting because the cards by Alicia, one of her cards was the Ten of Cups. And she was like, the Ten of Cups is related to the Ten of Swords. So you have to go through the Ten of Swords to claim the Ten of Cups. And I was like, I've never heard that. I can see how water and air, the elements of water and air, would be related because they're both fluid. But she was like, the Ten of Cups energy is associated with the Ten of Swords energy. And then here they both are after that Nine of Cups and the Fool. So This is someone realizing that to claim what it is that they wish, and you see those two wheels at the top of that full card. To claim what it is that you truly want for and wish, you're going to have to take that foolish leap of action, that foolish leap of faith. You're going to have to take some brand new action, but it's going to be a brand new action on both parts. And so there's almost this sort of mirrored energy here, because I feel like both, if this is a relationship, both parties have gone through this. If this isn't a relationship, then it's like this is a self mirrored energy, because I'm seeing this as an acceptance of oneself, because both of these happen at night, right? That's why I was going to pick this up. And then I saw the Nine of Cups. I was like, oh my gosh, I was granted. Both of these happen at night. And I'm almost seeing it as like, with this being the Scarlet Shield, this speaks to a good defense. The best offense is a good defense, and this is a mental defense. And so this is someone, through that Ten of Swords opportunity, stealing themselves mentally, increasing their mental stability, mental fortitude, mental stamina. And as they do that, it's like they can more comfortably dive deeper into themselves, face and tackle all the things that they need to face and tackle. And as they do that healing, I feel like this is the shadow aspect. Walking away, it's like it's liberating it. Like someone's liberating the shadow so that it can lead to a more integrated self with that 11, right? So I feel like that 11 energy is, that's an and instead of a versus. That's recognizing and honoring both ends of that polarity, and both ends of the polarity being your light and your shadow, or your more conscious self and your subconscious self, the darker parts of your subconscious self, right? It's like, because this is the golden, no, the Scarlet Shield. Anyway, I heard like a golden dawn. It's like the sun will rise again, but in a way that you've never seen before, because your shadow will also be present to witness the sunrise. And I want to randomly pick up, yeah, okay, Seeker. Behind the Seeker is this Empress. Behind the Empress is New World Order. Oops. Well, now we have the Empress in New World Order because the Seeker fell on the table. Okay, I like this because that was the creative world. The Stronghold of the Grail is the messenger from the creative world. It was this way. So we have the Seeker, the Empress, and this New World Order. This is going to be the closing of old chapters, opening new chapters. And it's like this, the shadow part of whoever this is holds a lot of creative energy, because the shadow is the void, is the womb that everything is born from. And that's why, to really come into the fullness of one's uh, capabilities and potential, you have to heal that shadow part, because everything is born from the dark. People are born, are a lot of animals are born from the dark, right? In the womb, and then they come and they, after birth, they see the light for the first time. Plants, right? Seeds grow underground, seeds grow in the dark. The stars at night, everything comes from that void. And yeah, it's just like the energy of a journey that was more perilous. Did I say the ending? There was a journey that was more perilous than you initially thought. And this was something that was wished for. Maybe from a space of hurt and pain in the past, you made a wish for something new, for something different, maybe to be fulfilled. just as hurt as you were, you wanted to experience that same the same magnitude or a similar magnitude in fulfillment. And again, that's the connection of the Ten of Swords to the Ten of Cups, I guess. So you wished for it. It started you on this journey with the initiate, and now here comes the seeker with the Empress and the New World Order. And the New World Order speaks to a completely different way of doing things. And the completely different way of doing things is you being responsible for the darker sides of you. And this is all in the present moment, right? In the past, we had that stronghold of the Grail who is literally like telling us nothing about the past, because I guess the past is relevant. And if this is more general, like we're all going to have a different past. But with that Ten of Swords, it's about putting the pain of the past behind us. It's about learning the lessons that we were supposed to have learned. It's about healing ourselves, integrating those lessons, being able to see a different perspective from things, being able to fortify ourselves mentally by recognition through receiving that Ace of Swords truth. And the truth in this case is a shield, right? So it's almost like the truth of the matter protects us from some of the more um, nasty or toxic parts of the fallout. It's almost the energy of like, to cure an ailment, first you must know what ails a person. And once you know what ails the person, you're able to cure it, right? It's like someone's poisoned, we need an antidote. It's like, okay, well, what were they poisoned by? Because there isn't necessarily a one size fits all antidote, right? Different poisons have different antidotes. And this is also about medicine. Um, and there are certain things when certain toxins, when administered at a certain concentration, can become medicine. But if taken too much, it's toxic. All medicines are toxic if you take too much, right? That's like, I think the thing about Tylenol, is it Tylenol? Is that like 4 Tylenol in a day may be like the recommended dosage. But if you go up to, it's either 6 or 8. Like if you take a few more Tylenol than you're supposed to, it can actually be like really dangerous. And they're like, what's that about? It's because there's like the minimum effective concentration, or is it the maximum effective concentration and the minimum toxic concentration? I can't remember. I took a pharmacy class. I took 2 pharmacy classes, but it's tired. It's tired and I'm late. But basically, there's a certain level where the drug works, and then there's another level where it's bad for you. And so, this is the medicine comes through the way of acknowledgement and recognition of what those experiences were for. And once you take that medicine, it heals the elements of the shadow, or it makes it easier for the shadow to heal. And then it's like it liberates the shadow from those darker parts. And as you liberate the shadow from those darker parts, it's like you get more access to um, the luminous void. Just popped into my head again. I can't remember when. I remember I was pulling some cards and like luminous void popped into my mind. And luminous void is interesting because a void is typically dark, like a black hole, but luminous means it's light. So the luminous void is the integration of the dark and the light. The luminosity is a word. The luminosity that we bring to that void space determines how consciously we can use it, right? Because the light would be the conscious, the more present, the expressive, the masculine. And the void would be the subconscious, the dark, the receptive, feminine. And to create, you need to integrate both of them. But if you are too far into the void, it's like there's the collective subconscious, right? And also it's like there's a sea of collective trauma. But once you begin to do your shadow work, it's like you separate your shadow from the collective body of shadows. If you've ever played Persona, it's I'm assuming a lot of people on here haven't, but it's basically like the collective dark side. Um, and then you have some people who have dark sides that are darker than others, and so they manifest as a whole space within itself. But for like the everyday people, their space just kind of sort of merges together. And so it's like when you do shadow work, or when you heal your shadow, when you integrate your shadow, when you can learn to accept those things in a workable way, because the Queen of Swords is very like, it's logical, so it makes sense, right? So this is, I feel like the logic speaks to a level of, I want to say it speaks to a level of deep healing, but it's like either it does or it doesn't, because some people, it's like if you have a lot of emotion tied to a situation, but then you're able to see it with logic, especially if it's a bad situation, sometimes it speaks to the amount of healing. But then again, not really, because some people will logic their way out of emotion. This is just the working knowledge, maybe. It's the knowledge, the knowing is the know. It's like the medicine. The sword is the shield. Best offense is a good. Best offense is a good defense. I'm gonna try to stop like trying to explain stuff so much, because then I lose it. But it's like once you heal and integrate your shadow enough, you pinch your void off of the collective void. And once you have your own void paired with your own light, it becomes a luminous void where you are birthing and creating things from a space of light instead of from that space of a collective shared sort of murkiness. And then you have the Empress here in this new world order. And it's interesting because it's like this, that bird is like a phoenix. I know it's not a phoenix, but it's like a phoenix, and then those are baby phoenixes. And it's like, as humans, before we can be phoenixes who rise from the ashes, we must first recognize that we are a phoenix. And so, with the mama bird feeding the baby birds, it's like, and again, with that Ten of Swords, it's the opportunity for us to realize sort of kind of the truth of who we are. Because first we must realize that we're a phoenix, and then once we come into that realization, it's almost like the process kind of sort of takes off by itself, and then we are reborn. But that rebirth, it's like there are a few ways to do it. One of the most effective ways would be to heal from the root. And a lot of times when you heal from the root, not only are you speaking to that inner child energy, but you are also at the same time, probably more than likely, doing some deeper level of shadow healing. So the Queen of Chalices and the no, Queen of Swords, Eight of Chalices. This is Wind Over the Lake. Ooh, it smells salty. Lakes aren't salt water. A lot of times they're not. This lake smells salty. I don't know. Maybe it's a, what do they call it? It's not a repository. Is it a repository? It might be a repository. Some kind of ocean water. Wait, Wind Over the Lake, right? Excuse me. Yeah, Wind Over the Lake. Okay. There's wind, there's lake. Ooh, this is Earth Within. Is this number six? No, it's 61. I was like, is this number 64? This is only three away from the end, and number three is the Empress, and the Empress did come out. The world is also a three because it's 21. Two plus one is three. The only three that's not here is the Hanged Man. And something tells me that the Hanged Man has been liberated. and he is now free. The Queen of Swords cut him down. Faith within, not earth within, it's faith within. And a heart open to truth. See, this is Zhonghu. Zhonghu. A sage deliberates on the transgressions of humankind, yet delays in judgment of others. Do not rush to punish. Gain a deep understanding of why the transgressor acted. To be superior in strength is to show mildness in punishment. Fellowship is not in itself noble. Thieves and bandits have fellowship, but such bonds can be broken. Faith is more important for peace and solidarity. There is a certain affinity between the oracle and you. Petition to the gods. Petition what to the gods? Hello? Faith within, a heart open to truth. So not only, and that's kind of sort of the thing. I guess they are interconnected. They can be interconnected. They don't have to be. Excuse me, but it's like once you kind of sort of, and again, it was like, I guess it's kind of sort of like what I was saying about the Ten of Swords. I don't remember how deeply I went into it, but that's like when you begin to see the lessons as lessons, when you begin to see the actions of people as things needed to happen, as things that needed to happen to kind of sort of put you in a certain situation to teach you a certain thing for you to then heal from it and get stronger. It's just like if you break a hand on a board 10 times, on the 11th time after it heals back, your hand will be stronger than the board and you'll break the board, right? And so it's like when you realize and recognize there's just I'm so tired. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this because it's like I know what to say, but I don't know how to say it. It's just like this recognition. Once you can recognize why you were in the situations that you were in your life, even if you can't recognize why per se, once you are able to heal from them, gain the strength that they were there to teach you, then it's like you can release those people from their role in causing that to you. It's almost like an energy of like they were just doing their job. Like it's not personal, even though it probably was extremely personal. Um, but it's like it's not personal. They were just doing their job. That's what they were put in my life to do. They were put in my life to treat me like crap, so I would rise up and do better, right? And so there's this element, especially after you begin to forgive yourself and recognize sort of your own shadow, because I think that's a part of healing that people don't too much talk about. It's like a lot of times we sort of look outside at what other people did to us, and then we learn to forgive them. But then at the same time, we also need to look at what we've done to other people and how we've operated from that space of hurt and from that space of pain, and how we may have then put that same pain that we felt onto someone else. Because at the same time that we forgive other people for doing that to us, we need to forgive ourselves for doing it to other people. There needs to be a recognition of how it goes sort of both ways, right? But, and I was talking about this a bit yesterday, maybe. Yeah, I was. Um, it was a 9 hour video. But it's like the affirmation for the throat is I forgive myself for everything. And the affirmation of the third eye is I forgive other people. And both of those are related to understanding that we aren't our actions, like who we are truly when we sit at the seat of our soul. Who we are is like it's not our actions. It's not what we say, it's not what we do. At our core, it's like, they say it's like what noise was that? These people. At our core, it's like they say it's like the true self sits at the center of the wheel and the center of the wheel never moves, but everything else moves around the wheel, just like how we can be a product of our environment and stuff like that. And so when we act accordingly, it's like for us to recognize that like we're not that, right? And at the same time, we recognize that we're not our actions. We also recognize that other people aren't their actions. And so it's like we forgive ourselves because it's like we haven't truly, the truest parts of us, right, haven't done any wrong. And then at the same time, the truest parts of other people haven't done any wrong either. And so there's this sort of mutual there's this understanding that works both ways, right? But in order for your third eye to be clear, you have to release other people. But technically, first, like you release yourself. And then this understanding comes in at the sacral or the heart. Let me remember. It may be the sacral. It's either the sacral or the heart. I can't remember. It may actually be the heart because it's like first you recognize and you realize that who you are is that part of you that sits at the center of the wheel, and then you realize that as the person sitting at the center of the wheel, you are not the places that the wheel has been as the wheel runs along the road of life. And then you also realize that other people aren't that, right? Just like how some people can give you a message, how some people can give you a synchronicity, people can teach you a lesson through karma, right? Or it's not, it becomes karmic. People can teach you karmic lessons. Um, but there's a forgiveness of others that the sage sort of masters that allows them greater perception to all that there is, because it's like you can't perceive the truth behind something if you only look at it from, it's like from the outside. It's like you can't, like if I put everything that I own in a box, right? You wouldn't know what is what, especially if I put everything in the same size box, regardless of how big or small it is. You can't look at the outside of a box and claim to know what's in the box because you're only looking at the outside. You can't look at the actions of a person and claim to know a person. Now, in my opinion, and this is Libran energy, Libra is also the justice card. And so it's not necessarily judgment, but it's like, knowing what works for you. And I have a fairly strong Libra energy in my chart. And so whenever someone does something that I don't like, I I look at the size of the box and I'd be like, well, that could be a TV. It could be something TV sized, right? And like, if it's this and if it's that, then it would make sense. But when I look at people's actions, it's like, okay, well, like if I try to sort of give them the best case, I try to give a best case scenario by it being like their worst case. And then I'm like, okay, so if this is like literally the worst day of their life, does that still justify what they've done or what they've said? And if the answer is no, then I feel no qualms. If the answer is maybe, then that's when I kind of sort of wait on it, right? But yeah, it takes a sage to be able to do that sometimes. Faith is more important for peace and solidarity. There is a certain affinity between the oracle and you. Petition to the gods. Gain a deep understanding of why the transgressor acted. That's what I was talking about. To be superior in strength is to show mildness in punishment. And it reminds me of something that I saw or something that someone said one day. It's like when the Queen of Swords gets the sword, she won't use it or she won't want to use it. It's kind of sort of the trick to it sometimes. All right. That's at the present moment, though, right? So at present, we're doing the shadow integration. We're doing this, maybe forgiving other people. maybe forgiving ourselves. Maybe we're looking at our own actions. Hopefully, we're looking at our own actions while we're looking at the actions of other people. Because if you only look at the actions of other people, that's a very one sided approach. And it's not very balanced. Yeah, I'll just move on because I need to go to sleep. Oh, wow. The sun at the top of the deck and temperance at the bottom of the deck. Left under that temperance is the Six of Swords, where we had the Ten of Swords before. And this is the future energy. So it's like after this recognition, it's almost like I want to say it's like all these video game references. I want to say it's like Pokemon when you're going through the whatever place and you prove that you have all the badges, but it's like there's somebody in this boat and it's like these doors are opening in front of them. It's like these huge gates and someone's on this boat. Ooh, the Eight of Wands is under this. It's like someone is on this boat, and as you clear a certain whatever, it opens up a brand new path to you. And so it's like with the Ten of Swords, that was sort of the proving. And now something is about to open, and we're about to travel beyond. The two cards at the top of the deck was the Sun. At the bottom of the deck is this Angel, the Temperance card. You have the Warrior and the Angel. That's interesting because I feel like a lot of times when we think of angelic energy, we think of like, and it's not that it's not all love and light, but I feel like a lot of times we think of angelic energy, it's like, oh, love and light and peace and, stuff like that. But there are also warriors, right? Like Michael with the sword. There has to be like somebody to fight the demons, so they can't all be pacifists, right? Because someone has to actively combat the other forces. But coming into the future space, honestly, this is like I just said, it's giving me the vibes of like, just because you get the sword, just because you have the power, doesn't mean that you'll always use it. And it's not using it out of a sense of negligence. It's not using it out of a sense of compassion. It's not using it out of a sense of understanding that sometimes the things that people go through affect them in ways that are very understandable. And always it's not always to hold a person accountable, because it's like when we hold someone accountable or liable, a lot of times we don't take into mind the things that happened to them in the past, especially if we're personally attacked, right? Now I will say again, I feel like there are some things that are a lot less excusable than other things, regardless of what happened to you, right? And those are the things that people for sure, you know, they get karma on. Um, I mean, it's like you always generate karma because it you queue up lessons to kind of sort of do better, right? It's just like taking a proficiency test in a way, right? If you're testing someone's compassion, then you'll not say anything. You'll let them go about their day. Maybe their day will be a little rough. Maybe they'll have a better day. Maybe you'll put them in a restaurant and you'll give them a waiter who messes up their order on accident, right? And you'll see how they react to it. But it's like you observe them and then you take notes and then you come back and you say, okay, so this is what you did here, this is what you did there. We need you to kind of sort of do a little better. So we're going to put you through this so you can learn how to do it, right? It's like trying to test out of something. It's kind of sort of the same thing. And so the karma isn't necessarily bad. It's just to teach you the next time, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that because it's just like a mistake that you naturally made. Also, with the sun card and the temperance energy here, to me, it's kind of speaking of like a long lasting solar energy. Like, instead of just like, the sun comes up and then the moon comes up, it's like in certain places of the world, how there'll be some days where it'll be nighttime for like maybe several days. I've never been to these places of the world. I believe some of them are like in Alaska or near the poles, because depending on how the Earth is tilted, like if it's tilted in a way that even when it rotates, it's always facing the sun, then you may have a few days where it's like, 24, 48, however many hours of sunlight. So even though it's midnight, the sun is still out because the way the Earth is tilted, if you're on the top, it's still facing the sun. And then when it rotates around the other way, it'll be facing away from the sun, and then you'll get about the same amount of time of darkness. But it's like you're going to be facing the sun for a while with this temperance card in the future. And it's going to be as you're navigating and moving towards this space that you're supposed to be in. So it's almost this energy of like smooth sailing for a long time. And what is a long time? Time is relative. Um, but it's just so that after you've done this level of work and done this level of healing, it's so that you can move unencumbered and you can acquire kind of sort of more and more things. Now, with this temperance card, it also will speak to an energy of not going overboard and staying focused, right? Because I don't know, how hard would it be to stay focused if like everything is good all the time, right? Like if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you quit your job or would you keep working? It's like you're going to win the lottery and they're going to ask you to keep working. And you're going to be like, well, why would I keep going to work when I have all the money I want? And I don't even, it's not that I don't enjoy my job, but, I want to sleep in sometimes, go on vacation. But it's like, okay, but we still need you to show up. We still need you to be here. And that's kind of sort of this energy. But it's almost like reclaiming. I feel like there's going to be a power here that's reclaimed. And the power reclaimed is going to put you in that warrior mode. But the power reclaimed, and it may be a power over the self, or at least a power over the mind, to a degree that will be able to keep you more stable and give you a resilience against the things that happen in your life. But it's almost like this power is going to come with a certain degree of happiness. And maybe it's that happiness that's really going to begin to get you out of those spaces that you were in before. So it's almost like when you go through the gate to proceed further forward, there are gates behind you that then close. I want to pull randomly from here too. Oh wow, that's not what I wanted. This Knight of Wands is here. It's not what I wanted. It's just like, I don't know. I wanted something cool, but the Knight of Wands is here. Well, the Knight of Wands speaks to forward movement. It speaks to really, really, really quick forward movement. And this is a very, very compassionate energy because this Knight of Wands is bringing the sun. This is a Helios or Apollo type of energy. Bringers of the dawn. Wait, this is the sun. I talked about the golden dawn, and then here's the sun and the angel. I was like, there's this like golden dawn coming, and then here's the sun card. I forgot. I'm about to write this out. Ooh, it's almost been an hour. Let's see. This is interesting though. Two majors in the future. Look at that. So this is double fire because the angel is a double energy. Ain't no balance here. We just moving forward. Double fire. Double fire is number 30, attachment. I don't know what this is for, who this is for, or when this will resonate. All of these energies are fluids. Because honestly, you start at a page and then you get to a queen. Now the page and the queen can be both feminine energies, right? The page could be an immature feminine energy, with the queen being the more mature feminine energy, just like the knight can be an immature masculine energy, with the king being a more with your masculine energy. So this is speaking already to an element of maturity. There is a elemental shift from water to air. And to me, I guess, and again, this is coming from past to present, but that speaks to a level of spiritual understanding. Because I feel like there's like the element of water is like spiritual connection, but we're taking that connection to the point where we get it. And when we operate from that space, the way that we perceive things changes, right? And so it's like this element that is typically watery and very ethereal then becomes logical and more grounded into the way that we operate. And then speaking of how we operate, we have the sun right here attached to the solar plexus. It's the light that we shine in the world. And it's like it's a very gentle light though, because it's coming out with that angel card, with that temperance card. Like we're not burning anybody, right? We're not, you know, no piles of ash. But it's a warmth. It's almost giving me like very nomadic energy, especially with the shining flame here, the Knight of Wands. And it's like you don't necessarily stay in one place for too long because you don't want it's because right the because of cycles. Just like the sun rises, so must the sun set. And it's like if you stay in one place for too long, then you're going to deprive other parts of the world of that sunlight. And we all need sunlight so things can grow all over the world, right? But it's also so that you don't burn people. Because I feel like and it depends on the path that you take. It depends on your path in particular. But there's almost a danger. Oh, I'm talking about constantly moving. Here's the Six of Swords. And again, under the Six of Swords is this Eight of Wands. So under the Eight of Wands is the Four of Cups. Just noting it. Um, but this is movement, and this is like really quick movement. This is something being accelerated. And then again, clarifying by that Knight of Wands, which is one of the quickest knights in the deck. Um, and it's Sagittarian energy, so it's not necessarily to be confined or stuck in one place in one space. So number 30, emotional attachment and clinging. This is Lee. You are clinging on emotionally. You hope you can depend or rely on one who you have attached yourself emotionally to. Yet, for the matter at hand, clinging is auspicious. Nurturing and caring for the fertile cow will bring prosperity. Though you cling, do persevere, sorry. Though you cling, do persevere. You must burn with fire from within and not rely on the external burning of fire. The luminous fire must start from within and burn outward. Clinging and emotional attachment is auspicious if the inner fire itself burns bright. That's interesting. I got that a long time ago. A long time ago. I don't even remember necessarily the context of what I got that in. But it's like now I can appreciate that in a way that I didn't appreciate it before. And I love because I remember at first I saw attachment. I was like, oh, this attachment is probably going to be bad. But this is actually a good attachment. This is a good attachment. It's auspicious. That means it's a very good omen. It's going to be rewarding, right? If you care for a prized cow, it leads to prosperity or whatever it said. Um, but it's to also have your inner fire burning bright, right? Now, there was a mirrored energy here in an outside inside type of way. But over here, it's like if your internal fire is burning bright, And the internal fire, if it's a person, it could be a business, it could be anything. Because even though businesses aren't people, they still have like vibes, right? And the way a company operates, like companies operate in ways similar to how people operate, right? It's like through how they acquire things, through the production processes, if they have any sort of community impact or give back or whatever, right? They can be charitable, they can be positive impacts on the community, they can be responsible and things like that, right? So it's like if you have an internal fire that is lit and you're in partnership, be that romantic, platonic, business, whatever, with some other entity whose flame is lit, then that can then be a healthy attachment. Now, if this flame that you have complements the flame of another, and when you unite those flames, they burn brighter together, then that would be could be one example of like a healthy attachment. This speaks about healthy attachments. And I kind of sort of love that because I was like, this sun is going to come in and it's going to be there for a while. So love that. And now I want to see where the moon is. I just want to see what's around the moon. I'm going to look and see if it's in the deck that the sun came out in first. Hey, the Knight of Cups is here. Ooh. Oh, wow. The Archangel of Mysteries and the Queen. The Archangel of Mysteries and the Ebony Shield were together in this deck. The King and the Queen of Pentacles. So I love that. And they were sitting right next to each other, too. The Four of Wands is also in this deck. And the Keeper. There's the Keeper. The Star and the Magician. Interesting. So the moon is probably going to be over here. And this is the one I didn't actually look through. Oh, wow. The Hangman is in this deck. That's interesting. There's the Hangman. And this is the middle deck, right? So this is the one where the Empress in the World came out. And I was like, oh, they're both number 3. The last 3 is the Hangman, and he's in here. So all of the 3s are together. All the 3s, the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Cups are together. Sacred Fire and Holy Water. Sacred and Holy Fire and Water. Where's the moon? Oh, here it is. Interesting. So the moon was actually technically at the top of the deck, near top of the deck. And I'm gonna put these back up here. So the 3 of Wands, the moon, and the 4 of Swords. I'm actually gonna look at the I Ching around the 3 of Wands and the 4 of Swords to see if that'll give any insight on what this moon is. And I'm looking at the moon because typically the sun is partnered with the moon, but this is giving me vibes of 2 suns. So this is a binary star system. Okay. Maybe that's why it's always lit. But the planet will adapt. It's so interesting because I've been seeing a lot of Gaia ads, and Matthias De Stefano, I believe that's his name. He's popped up in a few of them, and then he popped up on my YouTube feed, right? And so I watched, and he said something about how he was talking about the Pleiadians, and he said the Pleiadians have light bodies because of basically with the solar system that they're in, they have a lot of suns, and so everything is always being like irradiated, right? And so it's like the bodies are less dense and stuff, and they're basically like plant people, but I don't want to call them plant people, but they're basically like plant people because they have so much sunlight and it's so irradiated that they basically kind of sort of just live off of the energy of that because it kind of sort of fuels their body in whatever way. This is what some dude said, take it or leave it. But it's just interesting because now I'm getting the vibes of a binary star system, which means there's 2 suns, right? And I was gonna be like, oof, I hope that, like, both of the suns are up at the same time, because it might be real hot in the daytime, but at least you get some nighttime where it's chill. Because if there's like one sun, it's like one sun sets and then the other sun comes up. Like there are no bats, no owls. But then that made me think of the Pleiadians and what he said about them. Right. Okay. Three of scepters. Oh, more fire. Four of swords. Fire over the lake. Ooh, this is interesting. Fire over the lake is number 38. Polarizing. This is another 11. And that's interesting because this is the middle pile again, where the Ten of Swords and the Queen of Swords came out. And I said that's the 11 of Swords. 38. Polarizing. This is Kui. Oh, I just heard the do 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 do, which means it's time for the meditation music to go off, and it's time for me to go to bed, honestly. So I'm gonna wrap this up in a second. I'm surprised I haven't lost these yet, honestly. I try to be extra careful and cautious. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm looking for the moon because usually you have a moon and the sun, but this is a two sun system. So it's like even if you do have a moon, I don't know what that would do. So this is estrangement, opposition, and polarizing. One pushes for one pushes for progressive movement and one holds back. Two seek the same objective, but they go in separate directions. You are to stand apart from the rest and know why you stand so firm. While the greater endeavor at hand is being met with opposition, take the time to settle minor tangential issues. You feel misunderstood, yet your individuality is critical to the matter at hand. The estrangement is necessary. Do not chase after what will return on its own. You will be making the journey in the rain. You face inclement weather throughout your endeavor. And again, this is the present moment. I don't remember if I said anything about separation, but it's like, so I guess with this Three of Wands and with this Four of Swords, like what you're manifesting, you need to chill on, right? It's like calm the whatever on that, and it's time to maybe devote your energies elsewhere, but also maybe kind of sort of not, because at the same time it's saying like it's not that you're supposed to give up on whatever this is, but pursuing it harder won't make it come any quicker. I mean, and with the Queen of Swords and the Eight of Cups being here, it's like there are more important there are more important things that you can be doing within the self to make sure you're ready for whatever this is. Um, Directed opposition, but the word like directed evolution popped into my head. Um, and directed evolution is basically when, because so evolution, natural selection is natural. Directed evolution is like artificial selection, right? It's where you kind of sort of decide what you want to grow. And if you decide you decide what you want to grow a lot of times by making it very, very, very hard for things that won't grow. Okay, let me try that again. So it's artificial selection. And so you make it very, very, very hard for things that you don't want to grow. So that the only things that can grow are the things that you want to grow, right? And so, like I was saying with this, because again, this is the present moment. So I shifted out of this, but with this where is it? Yeah. With the Six of Swords, right? It was like you're on this boat and you're going through these gateways. And I got the reference of Pokemon. And so in Pokemon, you beat the Pokemon gyms, you get badges, and then at the end of the game, you use your badges to prove that you've beat the gym, and then you get to the end game, right? Basically. And so it's a way to filter out the weaker trainers from the stronger trainers because like with the champions of that region, it's like, you don't want to be wasting your time on people who are like brand new, right? On people who would never succeed anyway, because they don't have the experience, they don't have the team, they're not playing at your level yet. And so at the same time that you use the badges to gatekeep who has access, you also use the badges to give people mile markers along the way. It's like, okay, I know I need to get this badge and then that badge and then this badge. I got to get all 8 of these badges and then I'm ready for the end. So it almost serves this double purpose and double function because it's like you know what you need to do, right? You got to get all the badges. So again, it gatekeeps who has access to that, but it also serves as a guiding system along the way. And so that's the directed evolution, right? It's like there are certain parts of this that are going to be difficult. I mean, honestly, like there are going to be people who aren't able to do this. And because they're not able to do this, then this will never happen. And because you don't elevate your own sort of shadow self out of the space of the collective shadow, it's like you don't get here. You don't get here. And it's not easy to do. In my mind, it's not as difficult as it was being miserable. Like I much prefer the space and the difficulty of now. I mean, honestly, I feel like for me now is much less difficult than the past. Because being depressed and miserable all the time, this is much easier than whatever that was. But also for me, it's so easy because I know that like I can look at what's behind me as like, it's not great enough that it keeps me moving forward, right? Um, but yeah, and it's bringing back what I said, or not what I said, but it's bringing back that number 4 to mind, where it said the inexperienced fool seeks out divination. Divination does not seek out the inexperienced fool. Don't seek any more divinatory messages until you are ready to proceed and the right teacher will come along to teach you the right attitude. And I guess the thing about that is it's all about your attitude. Your attitude determines a lot because if you're not in the correct state of mind, then this won't happen as fluently, right? Like one of the reasons why I was able to grow so much so quickly was because I was in the mindset of whatever is the hardest, most difficult thing, whatever scares me the most, whatever needs to be healed, and I'm going to heal it. I was chasing tower moments because I knew that that was the level of healing I needed to reach to get to the goal I wanted. And at the time, my goal was just to be in a solid enough mental space to complete my classes and to not give up like 2 months out from graduation or a month and a half, honestly, from graduation. Like that was my goal, but then it ended up turning into something bigger. Um, but it's like, yeah, the difficulty is what gatekeeps certain people. The distractions will gatekeep certain people. There's this heavy gatekeeping energy here. And so maybe that's why we have these two suns over here. I mean, and I guess they do sort of call it, if we talk about the journey in general, because I guess I talk about it now, like with the twin flame, that's two flames. It's two luminous bodies. That's not like the flame in the mirror, right? It's like the fire and the reflection of the fire. It's like no, like we need two actual lights, not one light and a mirror that can reflect the light of the other person. Now you can reflect each other's lights, but you should be luminous in and of yourself. Mm, that's interesting. Man, I wish I could ask him that question. Because a very specific image just came to mind. It's like two lights that orbit and rotate around each other. Because again, that's the binary dance. It's like there are these two lights and then they merge into this brighter light. But even it's like from a certain distance, it looks like one light because it's so bright. But if you were to zoom in and you had proper eye where you're not burning your retinas and corneas, out of your eye sockets. If you had the proper gear and if you zoomed in, you'd actually see that it's two separate lights that are just really close. And they amplify the light of each other. And then from a distance, it looks like one body when it's actually two. That's pretty cool. And so that's why like this moon is over here in this pile with the Ten of Swords and the Eight of Cups and everything else. That's why the moon isn't in the space of the sun, because you can't, like, this isn't a sun moon thing. If you have a moon, then this person, I mean, if you have a moon, it's probably in this space of opposition, right? Like you can't have one person lit and then the other person chilling. Like that's not how that works. Um, but I mean, I feel like there isn't really anything to wrap this up on. And what's really interesting is that like I have no, because this is here, right? So I have no, like, it's this. If I pulled both of these cards, and then what's under this card is the Three of Swords. That's heartbreak. So I guess if you're stuck in that, then it's like I have no context as to what this is. It's almost like the past doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it isn't. Because if you're still there, then I don't know. But I've kind of sort of been saying that for a minute, I guess. And I guess a lot of people have been saying that. It's like, that's what separates some people from other people, is that some people will do the work and other people just won't do the work. And I mean, I guess it's true. So, but yeah, this is a lot of rapid movement. Maybe that's why. It's like, oh, okay. So I've been watching Eureka. I watched an episode of Eureka today. I'm nearing the end of it, and at first I was so sad because I was like, before I finish, and I think I've talked about it. But I was like, before I finish watching Eureka, I want to find my like Sheriff Jack Carter. Right. I want to find my person who's dependable and reliable and who's always there and who would like, who's a lover, a fighter, and a protector. Someone that people can look up to, a beacon of hope, and someone who protects his people. He's like a very, very, very type of like Leo energy. But I feel like he's also, well, no, because that's Leo. Because I was gonna say I feel like he's also like very grounded, like a Earth energy. But I mean, Leo can be grounded too. It's fixed fire. It's dependable. It's the sun. The sun is always there. You know. I was like, I want to find my Captain Jack before I finish the show. Now I'm just watching it. I'm in the last season, but in the episode, it was something about where was I going? See, I went on this whole tangent. What was I talking about? I don't remember. Something about power, two lights. Some people do the work, some people don't. I don't remember. What was it? I wish I could remember the. I want to watch an episode before I go to sleep, though. What was it? I don't know. I don't remember. I'm gonna just shuffle these up for the last message or for the last card. I feel like there isn't really any advice besides, oops, well, That's all. Okay. Well, this is a whole bunch of cards. Oh my gosh, this is so many. Oh, oh no. The death card was still in the deck. Face up. I thought it was the title card for a second, but it wasn't. So all of these cards flipped over. It's not that many. Okay, it would be better if all of these cards flipped over. There you go. And then the Queen of Pentacles, Ebony Shield, flipped over later. So we have the Reaper, the Nine of Orbs, the Ace of Swords, Justice, the Chancellor, the Contender, Five of Scepters, and the Four of Orbs, the Conservator. 4-5 Justice. Justice is sitting under the Reaper. The Five of Wands is sitting under the Nine of Pentacles. And the Four of Pentacles is sitting under the Ace of Swords. I think it's very interesting because I feel like there are two sort of independent energies here, and then you have this Queen of Pentacles. On one side, it's the conservator and the contender. This is someone who is very much so to themselves, and self isolation is their default. And then they come into this Five of Wands contender. But I feel like what that is more than anything is them fighting their old habits of isolating themselves from people. And then there's this justice card. So it's like, to get what you ultimately want, you have to be able to show up at the level of commitment that you desire. And whatever this Four of Pentacles, Five of Wands energy is, like, that's not somebody showing up. Because it's like once they get so far, they sort of retreat to that space. And so, here's a Leo energy right here with the Five of Wands. Leo energy, Capricorn energy, Libra energy. Leo, Capricorn, and Libra. Leo and Libra sextile. So that's an opportunity. And then Capricorn and Libra square. Capricorn and Leo in conjunct. And so this is a lot of good and bad. It's not good and bad. It's like it's a push and pull because it's easy in some ways and it's difficult in other ways. On the other side is this just like straight up independent energy with the Nine of Pentacles, someone who's self-sufficient, self-sustained, but they're sort of coming into a realization with this Ace of Swords that it's kind of sort of coming to an end, and so the way that they operate is also going through a transformation. You are my guiding light, said this Reaper. This Reaper said, I only, because like this is the energy, like this Ace of Pentacles with this Nine of Pentacles with this Ace of Swords. It's like this is somebody who's like, I know I could be good on my own, but I'm gonna change for you. Nobody else but you. And then both of these are sitting in this under this Queen of Pentacles compassionate energy for the other person. But again, here's this person who's kind of sort of used to doing everything on their own, even though they didn't necessarily want to. And this is them sort of needing to fight this tendency to continuously self isolate to bring something into justice and to bring something into balance. And the balance is them both reaching this compassionate energy. I don't know. That was too many cards. Just give me one. Here, the Wheel of Fortune. It was at the bottom of the deck. It was the only card left on the table when I pulled up the rest. And now at the bottom of the deck is that Six of Pentacles. Equal give and take is Kahane with that Wheel of Fortune. Like I said in the beginning, was it today? Yeah, I believe it was. I said something. Something has been recognized. I can't remember what I said, but whatever it was, it's been recognized. What was I talking about Eureka for? Instead of the sun and the moon, one person doing it and another person not. Two suns, binary star system. Talking about being tired. Oh, yes. Because I was like, I've been so tired. Things are so tense. It's almost like our bodies can't keep up with all of the energy. Maybe some of them. Some of the symptoms may be that like the body is going to be going through a readjustment period because it's getting used to kind of sort of like things being more whatever, right? It's like if you work out, you get tired, but it's like you're sort of constantly working out. And in the episode of Eureka, I watched um, this robot got an upgrade, but his upgrade made him compute a lot faster, but it also drained his battery really, really, really quick because he was basically operating at a rate that was much quicker than the rate that he was built to be able to utilize that power. And so he went on a power trip and started draining power from everything in the town, and it was a disaster. And he's a robot who's in love with the smart house. And he showed up to the house, and she was like, "Hey, honey, like, welcome home." And he's like, "Yeah," because he's it's a sci-fi show, okay? So he's also the deputy, and I guess usually he's not home in the middle of the day. And so she's like, "Hey, welcome home." And he's like, "Oh, hey, honey." And then he goes over to where her power or whatever is kept, and she's like, "You're undoing my power or whatever." He's like, "Yep." And she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, he was basically going to drain her power, but it was a trap because they knew that he was going to go do that, right? But it's just the energy of like, we're going to be operating at a level that the batteries just aren't, it drains the batteries too quick, right? And then things will calm down and slow down eventually. That was my theory, I guess. That's why I started talking about Eureka. So I'm like, wow. But it's just like, if you get more energy, it's like a system overload. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a system overload. When you have more energy than the system can utilize or it can contain, then you kind of sort of go into a meltdown. I don't know if sleeping grounds energies. I don't know anything. This is an hour and a half. I'm gonna go to sleep because I'm obviously tired. Whatever that was that came out is just speaking to, I guess, the process. It's the nature of the process, and it's all about the state of mind. If you are begrudgingly doing this quote unquote healing, begrudgingly doing this, begrudgingly doing that, I mean, it's like you can do it, but it's not going to have the same effect, right? That's like if I tried to use this lamp right here to grow a plant, like that lamp isn't going to have the same effect as actual sunlight. And that lamp isn't even going to have the same effect as lamps designed to grow plants, right? This is just some random like lamp. Uh, but the state of mind is important, just like when the sacral chakra came out 2 days ago and last station 517, whatever. I was like, with the sacral chakra backing the sun, it's like the space from which you create and the space from which you act is almost more important than the act of creating or the action itself. The state of mind that you make a decision from is more important than the decision that you make. Um, and that's why I'm going to re-upload it. Um, I didn't even do the Capricorn and Sagittarius. I almost started to do that, but I'm so tired. It may be the case that Pisces and Aquarius are the only two that are up. ah, but that's what I was getting for Jupiter. It's like all of this stuff, all of this like moon. So Jupiter would be moon, temperance, and the Wheel of Fortune, as Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius, and it is the Wheel of Fortune card in the deck, right? But it's like it's bringing all of these hidden sort of motivations to the light, and it may not necessarily make those hidden motivations very like, it may not necessarily make them known, but it's almost like you'll be able to tell when the wheel starts to move and where the wheel starts to move. what the motivations are behind it. And that's why it's like what's most important is the mindset that we bring to the table and the space from which we enter, whatever. Um, I mean, I can say it like 15 to 20 different ways, but it almost feels like by this point, it almost feels like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm going to keep pulling cards. I mean, I guess I don't have to pull cards, but it's just like the folks who will get it already have it, and the folks who won't may not. I don't want to say that because it's never too late. And like I've said in the past, it's like you don't know how much someone else has to do. You don't know how much you have to do before you reach the point where everything clicks and your entire life could change for the better in literally seconds, right? Or minutes, Let's be a little reasonable here. It can change in minutes through a series of guided actions and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, attachment, a good thing. Who would have ever guessed that attachment would be a good thing? But again, it's not to lose yourself. And if you haven't found yourself to lose yourself, then you're probably, I don't have to tell people where they are. All right. I'm going to catch y'all later. Have a good whatever whenever you see this. And you'll probably see me within a year.